Dr. Robert Hancock wears many hats. He's a Canadian microbiologist and University of British Columbia Killam professor in microbiology and immunology. He's also an associate faculty member of the Wellcome Trust Sanger Institute, as well as a Canadian research chair in health and genomics. On top of that, he's an officer of the Order of Canada. He's also CEO of ASEP Medical. That's ticker ASEP on the CSE. Now, ASEP is a company that's looking to mitigate the issue of antibiotic failure by improving patients' odds of survival and quality of life. Now, Cantech Letter talks to Dr. Hancock about the company's recent journey. Doctor, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent. Dr. Hancock, can you tell us about the structure of ASEP Medical? Now, you own two companies, Sepset Bioscience and ABT Innovations. How do they differ, and how do they complement each other, Doctor?
Yeah, so I started these two companies actually in 2016 as virtual companies. And ASEP essentially purchased majority ownership of them. So Sepset is specifically a diagnostics company that is aimed to deal with a major issue in antibiotic failure, which is sepsis. So just to give you a little bit of a background on sepsis, sepsis now is known to cause 20% of all deaths, and the main treatment there is antibiotics. So when 23% of patients who get sepsis die, that is clearly a situation of antibiotic failure. So the main mitigation strategy that one can adopt is to be able to do an accurate diagnosis early. And Sepset basically has developed a diagnostic assay that works in the emergency room to diagnose whether a patient will go on to severe sepsis and organ failure. That's the one company. So the second company deals with another issue in antibiotic failure, which is the most common type of infections called biofilm infections. So biofilms are literally lumps of bacteria that sit on a surface, and it can be any surface in your body, the oral cavity or skin or the lungs or the gastrointestinal tract, etc. And these biofilms are extremely resistant to antibiotic treatment. Even though by far the majority of antibiotics go into treating these types of infections, there's never been actually a therapy developed for these biofilm infections, despite the fact that they're 2/3 of all infections. So what we've developed is these small molecules, little proteins called peptides, and these peptides actually specifically attack biofilms. So these two technologies are united by the fact that they both address the issue of antibiotic failure, but they also cover a very broad range ranging from diagnostics through to treatment. And ASEP saw that there was an opportunity to bring them together into one company dealing with the issue of antibiotic failure.
Really interesting, really important stuff. I know ASEP was recently granted patent approval for its sepsis diagnostic technology in 13 European countries and Australia. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so patents are the lifeblood of biotechnology. So in order to practice something without having somebody stealing your technology, you have to get patent approval. And the more countries and the more important countries that you can get this patent approval, the better really it is for the company. So we've already got approval in China and Hong Kong. And to add to this, we recently got approval in Europe, and this European patent was endorsed in 13 European countries, really the major players in Europe that represent hundreds of millions of individuals that are potential customers for our diagnostic assay. We also got approval in Australia, and we're seeking approval in other jurisdictions right now. But generally speaking, this now gives us a free hand to start commercializing our technology in a major marketplace, which is Europe.
Doctor, in October, you signed an interesting deal with China's Bohai Biomedical. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so we've been very lucky to have a collaborator here at the University of British Columbia who has expanded our therapeutic technology into the area of dental infections. So we initially were able to show using model systems that these peptides of ours worked really well against dental infections, especially when combined with really suboptimal agents that are currently used in dentistry. And by doing that, we were able to get really excellent activity against dental pathogens within 1 to 3 minutes in fairly moderate concentrations. And so just a few months ago, we finally did some human clinical studies, and we were able to demonstrate that a mouthwash comprised of our peptides plus an antimicrobial agent commonly used in dentistry was able to have a tremendous effect on removing biofilm, which is the major cause of all dental issues like dental plaque and such like. So dental plaque is a biofilm infection. And so this now provided us with definitive evidence in man that we had an opportunity here. So ASEP wants to bring maximum benefit to shareholders as early as we possibly can. And the great thing about the mouthwash is that it's not an FDA-regulated technology, but rather it's regulated through consumer goods and cosmetics legislation. And so that gives us the opportunity, without going through a lengthy clinical trials process, to start to get a product approved. So we formed this collaboration with Bohai in China, who are going to test our mouthwash in thousands of individuals. And if we get that, that will allow us now to start marketing worldwide a high-end mouthwash, really designated not for use in the bathroom and such like, but rather for use in dental offices to prevent infections that could occur when the dentist, opens your mouth up to deal with your decaying teeth, etc.
Oh, interesting stuff. Now, can you tell us, you have a lot on the go here, but what do you want to accomplish in the next year, Doctor?
Yeah, so we have really 3 major objectives. The most serious of these relate to the diagnostic technology. So we've already gone through most of the commercial development processes to demonstrate that we can create a test format that works. The test format is called PCR. It's polymerase chain reaction, and it's a technology that's freely available in hospital laboratories worldwide. And so we've engaged a really impressive contract research organization to assist us in commercializing our diagnostic assay. We've got a platform partner that basically makes one of these PCR machines that's widely distributed throughout North America and Europe. And we're progressing towards a single clinical study, which is all that's required for a diagnostic assay, that will end up basically giving us what's known as 510K approval. That's the legislation in the USA. And so our objective is to get most of the way, if not all of the way, through to 510K approval to allow us to start selling this diagnostic, at least in one jurisdiction. We're also very excited. We hope to announce in a very short period of time that we've also are bringing on a partner in a really major marketplace that will allow us access to hundreds of millions of individuals. So that's our first objective. Our second objective really is to develop the biofilm technology. I've already mentioned the mouthwash, and I think it's feasible that we'll be through those studies in the middle of next year. And that will allow us to start selling something. But there are many other dental indications that we can also drive towards, and we already have a lot of data supporting that, but we'd like to get more. We're also interested in enhanced bandages, the wound healing area. This is a technology area that has been supported by the US Army and is actually done in partnership with a large Boston company called iFiber. And we hope to have that also progressing towards approval. That's again done under device legislation, so that'll be 510K type of a process. And then we also want to start the preclinical studies for a therapeutic indication, which is the area of sinusitis that causes 242,000 emergency room visits every year in the USA. And then lastly, in order to do all this, of course, we have to raise money. And so we're progressing towards listing on NASDAQ. So we're very enthusiastic about pushing that listing to allow us to raise sufficient money to do all these fairly ambitious goals that we have.
Wow, fascinating stuff. Lots on the go with ASEP Medical. Dr. Robert Hancock, really appreciate you joining us. Got to mention it's ticker ASEP on the CSE. Doctor, thank you so much.
My pleasure.